What's up, guys? Welcome to Breakfast with Bobby episode. We're back. Been on a hiatus, guys. Had some life stuff going on. Had to get some stuff squared away. And then the Rogue happened. And then more life stuff. And then the Arnold really happened. We can get into a little bit of that and how I'm doing since. But yeah, so not my kitchen. I'm in my little brother's kitchen. So yeah, his kitchen is almost the size of my apartment. So yeah, no, in my little brother's kitchen. Been hanging out with him for a little while. But anyway, circling back around. So I'm back. I've been training. I'm making some changes to my training, going back to some more of my older preferred methods of training. That's just it's time for me to again, really reevaluate. Arnold was a little bit of an eye-opener, and I had seen some, sorry about the tile I keep stepping on, guys. Let me see if I can put this over top of it. Yeah, Big Bobby, when I was 370, cracked some tiles by stepping on them in my little brother's kitchen, and I have not gotten them fixed for him yet, so I need to do that. Point being, bad person. However, with this Arnold, it just really solidified in my brain that I need to go back to not exactly what I was doing, but I need to get back to some of those basic principles and protocols that I used to follow all the time that I believe I had aged out of a few of, but clearly there's some of them that are missing. I saw spurts and highlights of the old Bobby in this last prep, but he just definitely wasn't there. And I think a lot of that has to do with trying to get eggshells out of the pans. Jesus. Okay, cool, we got it. Alright, guys. But I think a lot of that had to do with, and there is another floor tile. Crap. Y'all, this is going to be a long video. Just warning, this is going to be a long video. However, looking back, there were some things that very clearly that I was good at, or I've lost some consistency with. I think a lot of that was some life stuff that I had let get in the way, which happens, And also, I'm on a little bit of a forced break right now. I didn't get my World's Strongest Man invite. I've been invited to the last 5, and I haven't done great at that contest a lot due to some questionable TV-related event decisions, making some events worth more than others. And then there have been some other moments where Bobby showed up and got hurt. And then there's some other moments where Bobby just didn't show up and couldn't get the job done. It really sucks that this year they've changed that rule, and it's okay, we're gonna take off the stone off. We're gonna take out the stone off, allegedly, from what I've heard, and have it just all straight up. It's well, that would have been a great Bobby Thompson show. But hey, I do think that them not sending me my invite is a blessing in disguise, though, because I am getting, guys. Strongman's been my life since, I would say, right after my first contest in Richmond, Virginia, the Beer City Brawl. After that moment, strongman was my life. I trained like a pro as an amateur. That's why I went pro so quickly. Depending on what you believe quickly to be, I did less than 6 amateur contests and over the course of 2 years, I believe. So I think that's relatively quick. But when you live that lifestyle, your body starts to take a beating, and you have other things you sometimes need to focus on so you can continue being a good businessman, which allows me to live the lifestyle that I want to live. And I think I was forced into that situation. And to be frank, you can do all the recovery and rehab that you want, but there comes a point where you just need time. Time not under pressure. And I have been in contest prep. I'd say I've been in contest prep consistently since 2020. Things have just been rolling. And I don't think I've done the due diligence. I think potentially maybe 1 or 2 years there I did too many shows. And I think it's starting to wear. So I think I need a little bit of a break, which is what this World's Strongest Man lack of invite situation has turned out to be. And I've actually put on some weight. That's nice. Put on some weight. Got some live stuff taken care of. I'm averaging about 334 to 336 in the morning right now, which in the beginning of my Arnold prep, I spent the majority of that prep about 318 pounds. And it was Nathan and I trying various things. Hey, we got to get heavier. Got to try this. Got to get heavier. Got to try this. And we were constantly plugging. And when we found something that worked, we'd see weight gain. But then weight would come right off. Because you can't just eat. You can't employ those cheat meals and sodium blast all the time. Or they don't work the way they're supposed to. Or eventually you die. So it's you can't just do that all the time. So we would do it. It'd work. And then within 4 or 5 days, I'd shed 10, 12 pounds. If not more sometimes. It was absolutely ridiculous, and we don't know why it was happening. However, we seem to have, I guess, found a state of just homeostasis where my body likes to be. You know, it's not super, I mean, I still like, I'm 336 and I kind of have abs right now. Like, they're kind of there. It's not what I had, and I do kind of miss that, but I wasn't intentionally trying to keep super jacked Bobby. It just wouldn't go away. I'm gonna regret saying this. It just wouldn't go away. My super jacked state of existence just wouldn't go away. I'm never going to be jacked again. But hey, it's worth sharing with you guys. So the Arnold, let's go over that real quick. The Arnold. Naturally, deadlift went as deadlift does on that bar for Bobby. I did not have a great deadlift prep at all. My best deadlift was a slow 920. I would say it was a steady. It wasn't fast, it wasn't slow, but it was a steady 925 single. And it was like, okay, major sinus infection, crap, like a bunch of stuff happened. Log wasn't bad, it wasn't on par. There were some issues I've been having with pressing a log for the last like year and a half, 2 years, where if I load myself in this position to press overhead, I end up getting very lightheaded and very dizzy very rapidly. And that spread to the stone. So that wasn't that great. So that's what happened there. And then we go, by the way, we're not going to cover the frame because frame's frame. My feet did give me a pretty big crunch when I hit the incline on that frame. And I did have to get Rob Kearney to wrap my feet so I could get back to my hotel room and wrap me the next morning. That's a big reason why, one of the reasons why I didn't come out and do the last stone event, or attempt to at least, which I wanted to. But in the state I was in where I was walking on my heels and couldn't put pressure on the inside of my feet, it was kind of like, guys, like this is asking for an injury. And then there's the big jerk. Well, my elbows have taken a beating over the years. They're actually starting to feel really good right now. And I think the big jerk is a lot to thank for that. So that event didn't go great, but having to train it did some really cool things for me. I can't front rack to the front, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to. I don't think I'll ever be able to stretch. I don't think my anatomy wants to let me do that. I think my arms are too big. These may be kind of shitty excuses, but they kind of make sense to me. So anyways, I digress. Pressing from the front in a floated position puts a lot of strain on your elbows. And I used to do it when I was really young because it was easier to press from there. And then I think long term that really messed me up because I have incredibly strong triceps and super strong shoulders. But I do think floating a barbell in front of my body like that wreaked havoc on my elbows, just to the point that they were like, hey man, we're done. Like, this is not something, you know, we're gonna do. So having to get the behind the neck push press oriented and figured out actually took a lot of stress and almost all the stress off my elbows. So now my elbows, my triceps feel a little deconditioned, I'll say that, but my elbows feel really, really good, relatively speaking, compared to what they did feel like. So I really think the behind the neck work for the big jerk was a lot, or was for the reason, or is the reason, or a lot of the reason for that. Now, what happened on that specific event? My lack of mobility puts me in a really wide position when I'm pressing like that. And realistically, when you're that wide and you don't have the arm span that you should to be that wide, like myself, you end up with like, you basically have like a gnat's hair of landing position where that barbell has to hit perfectly to stay put. And a lot of that is just general lack of ability on my behalf to perform the movement in the most efficient way possible. I covered years worth of ground in about 8 weeks. So I was very happy with my progress, even though I didn't get to fully display. And my last attempt that I was out for just under 500 pounds, so I didn't account for the whip that was going to be taking place on that bar. I had an ollie bar back home, but when I get to weight that's about 405 or more, I'm usually putting calibrated plates on the outside of my bumpers because I lack of space on the bar and a lack of bumper. So the whip I was accustomed to was significantly less than that. Now, if you're well versed in the kind of the principles of Olympic weightlifting, you can take advantage of that whip. I am not well versed in those, or well enough versed in those at least. I know of them, I believe, but to say I could execute them would be a stretch, a big stretch, if not an all-out lie. So that whip actually caused one side of the bar to knock against, to knock against the jerk block. Well, I felt that, and then there wasn't enough time for me feeling it and starting to initiate my ascent. And I initiated my ascent and started to drive, and then was like, oh, we're not going to try and hit that because I could already feel how out of position it was. And I went to kind of come out from under it. I didn't realize the barbell was already halfway up the back of my head, and actually ended up pushing myself under it as it was coming down. So kind of back of the top of my head, base of my neck kind of thing, just wham, What a good time. That's not what that was, by the way. Head trauma, that was just me being uncoordinated and my foot hurting. Sorry, guys. But back to the point. So that happened. I was dizzy for a moment, saw spots when it happened. Definitely had some light sensitivity going into the next events. Had a headache for about a week. Really kind of came home, didn't do much of anything. Let my brain unscramble. That knock to the back of the head, definitely. That was a bigger problem than my feet were when I got home. So that's all feeling better. Feeling great right now. But like I said, I've been doing some pressing. Pressing's feeling really good and pain-free for the first time in a long time. Body's feeling good. Gotten a little out of shape, but at this point, I am just going to go get strong. I am going to stay as strong as I can. I'm going to get healthy, which means I'm not going to be doing a bunch of strongman events. I'm actually going to get strong and healthy because contest prep doesn't allow for that. And I am going to stand by and wait patiently in hopes that other opportunities will come my direction. I haven't heard anything about SMO. I wasn't one of the automatically qualified. Ooh, that's not good. Wasn't one of the automatically qualified, so just gonna have to sit back and wait. You know, at a minimum, this is a chance for me to recover, figure myself out, pump some more time into my businesses, which I'm excited to do. Or, excuse me, put more money into my businesses, more time into my businesses. Still working on the dog breeding thing. That's a world. So outside of that, I will be taking on more clients here to come, working with my social media a bit more, coming back with Breakfast with Bobby. So that's kind of the life update, guys. Now, hot topics I want to discuss. I don't think that it is a good idea to be sending any more Arnold amateurs to the Arnold main stage. Hear me out. And I mean, we see how it goes. Thomas Evans is pretty much, and Novikov and Kielskowski are kind of the outliers to this. But getting to that show as your first major show, I don't think is a right move. I think it is a way to get hammered. And I don't think it's a great way to present yourself to the Arnold as a committee in terms of, hey, or even Rogue necessarily, as I am an athlete, I am here, I'm one of the killers. Killers just being a broadly used term for an elite level athlete in a given sport, right? If you're one of the killers, you're knocking guys off. So I don't think it's a great way to introduce an athlete to that because the Arnold Amateurs simply is just not, it's not enough. And that's not a shot at Strongman Corp. That's not at all. They don't have the means to make it enough to warrant it being absolute preparation for that. When I did it, I was taken care of and I was sent to two different countries before I actually went and did the Arnold Pro. And that still wasn't a whole lot of prep, but it was enough that I wasn't shell-shocked when I got there. And I'll say, Nick Guardione, you belonged backstage with us. I mean, you were not shell-shocked remotely at all, but I don't think as many guys are going to handle it or have the inside support that Nick had. Inside support being like, he had competed against me at Beerstone. He's good buddies with Smash. He's training partners with Smash. So Nick actually had a phenomenal setup and came in and did pretty damn well. But if we look at how most of the time those athletes end up placing in the lineup, I don't think it does them justice because I think it's like, oh, you know, you are the best amateur in the world. How do you feel? I'm great. I'm coming for it. And then they get knocked to the back end of a ranking and they've gone from being the best amateur in the world, which is code for the worst professional in the world. Best amateur, worst professional, because you don't have any game film compared to the rest of these guys. You watch for toast. We're doing good. You don't have any game film compared to the rest of these guys. And then they go and do this show, and they come towards back end, if not last. And I just don't think that's a great way to ignite a career. I think we need to put something else there for them. That would be really cool. But guys, I need to eat. Toast is almost done. Greek yogurt. I don't have my scale, so I'm just going to eat it out of the tub. So what is Bobby Thompson doing? Bobby Thompson is locking himself in a shed in the middle of nowhere with his training equipment. And I'm going to train. I'm going to not be in prep for the first time in 5 or 6 years. I am going to train to get strong. I'm going back to my basics and hope I'm waiting for another big contest invite to come redeem myself. So guys, signing off. See you later. Go eat something. You're getting skinny.